Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. This is year 18. Our show is now old enough to vote. Appreciate you being with us. I want to say thanks right off the top because you don't last 18 years without the sponsors and without the viewers taking care of those sponsors. So thank you right off the top. We're going to be talking for the next 90 minutes with 6 other guys and myself about Tennessee's 31-27 win at South Carolina last night. Certainly stuff to work on, but compared to where Tennessee started the year last year, I think folks should take a win on the road in the SEC. Let's get right into this first segment of our show. It's brought to you by Junk Be Gone. From junk removal to do-it-yourself dumpster rentals, Junk Be Gone can help you get the junk right out of your house, your garage, your yard, your attic, wherever. And for companies, they also provide paper shredding as well as getting rid of the junk and old office furniture and the like. Heck, they even handle demolition jobs. They do it all. Junk Be Gone. Find out more at junkbegone.biz. We appreciate them for bringing you the show. I want to welcome in the first wave of panelists today. We have VFL Will Overstreet back with us. We have from WNML AM and FM right there, Jimmy Himes. We have down there a longtime sports writer and media mogul in this town, Chuck Cavaleras. Gentlemen, opening drive segment, I simply want to ask, glass half full or glass half empty? Let me give you some reasons for both, and you can tell me which side you're going with. Glass half full, hey, you bounced back for a bad start. I think South Carolina's time out there on that second drive might have calmed you down, as a matter of fact. You had 6 plays of 20-plus yards, 4 of 30 or more, so you got good chunks on your offense. 5 scoring drives, all under 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So you got some big play potential there. Your tempo game was good. No turnovers on offense, and won the turnover battle, 2-0. Scored on one of those, and that was the difference in the game. Won an SEC road game, never to be sneezed at. Beat South Carolina for the second straight year. This is a team that had kind of jumped you. As you've fallen over the years, that's a team that's been one of the ones that's beaten you and jumped you. So you beat them 2 years in a row. Good sign. 4-0 in the last 4 one-possession games you've played, winning close games. 7th straight win overall, and you did it with a lot of guys being out in August, missing a lot of practice time. So that's glass half full. Glass half empty, let me see if you agree with these. It looked like the November 2019 Vols. Didn't look like the September Vols of a year ago, but it looked a whole lot like the same team we saw last year. No huge improvement. I think people were expecting big leaps. You didn't see those. Garantano specifically looked the same. 1 of 10 on third downs, maybe officially 1 of 11 because on that last drive when they were eating clock counted as a third down. So only 1 of 11 on third downs. Missed chances for knockout blows repeatedly. Defense blew a 2-touchdown lead and fast in the second half. And you take away the pick 6, and South Carolina's offense outscored the Vols 27-24. All right, I've laid out the reasons. You might have more. You tell me. You feeling glass half full or glass half empty after that game last night?
I have to feel glass half full just because you look at this season, you see what everybody's been able to look at that didn't have a lot of practices. You didn't have one of these preseason games that you usually have in a season like this. And look, you compare this to Georgia State last year, and you just go, hey, you started a heck of a lot better this year. I also saw, some of the things that were unanswered or kind of questions going in. You had great pass rush from the outside most of the game. Your offensive line, even though it was not consistent, at times it could take over the game and actually enforce its will. So I saw enough things to say that I could credit the bad as being a first game dress rehearsal that you weren't able to have. And so, therefore, let's see how much better you get in this second week. But I saw enough there to say, okay, this team can play in the SEC. This team has the chance to get some other teams that I watched on Saturday that maybe at the beginning of the season people didn't think they had a chance to beat.
Jimmy, I left out some things there. They also played without Cade Mays, who people this summer thought they would have. They played without Austin Pope. And then last minute, they played without Darrell Middleton and without Sean Schamberger. So they had guys out as well. Maybe that's a reason for glass half full. Where are you?
That would be a reason for me to go glass half full. And all the adversity that they faced, I'm not sure there were that many teams that had as many players that missed practice because of the virus situation and contact tracing than Tennessee. So I'll go half full with that. But I will point out a reason for a half empty, and that is I think Tennessee did a very good job of taking advantage of field position. Twice they got the ball on the plus end of the field. They got the ball at midfield once, and they got the ball on their own 47 and got 0 points out of that. In a couple of those cases, they could have had a chance to put the game away. They didn't. But I do think getting a win on the road and being able to overcome a lot of obstacles, being able to overcome some injuries and some players that were out, I think I'd go half full.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be half full. I mean, how many
Not according to social media last night.
Well, I mean, in social media, that's for the complainers, isn't it? And sometimes me. But no, you went on the road and got an SEC win. That's the bottom line. How many times in the past 14 years have you started 1-0 in the SEC? What, one? So, all things considered, and you're talking about players out. You had, 50 players out for the better part of 2 or 3 weeks leading up to game week? I mean, some of those guys only got 2 or 3, 4 practices in. So, yeah, I mean, it's half full. Build on that. Correct mistakes after a win.
Were you guys, let me put it this way, in terms of where your expectations were before kickoff, did that team exceed them, meet them, fail to meet them?
Met them. For me.
So it was about what you expected.
I mean, and it was right on the line, too. I mean, it's a 4-point win. You're, favored by 3.5.
And the Cavaliers line was 3.5.
The
That's the only line we talked about.
Yeah.
It was about what I expected, but it wasn't all exactly as I anticipated. For example, Tennessee's pass rush was better than I thought. I thought they'd have difficulty with that, losing Darrell Taylor. On the flip side of that, I thought the run game, in particular in the first half, would be a whole lot better than it was. So there were different elements of the game that surprised me a little bit, but bottom line, it's about what I thought. I had Tennessee winning barely by 4. That's what they ended up. But it's about where I thought Tennessee would be. I expected some mistakes by both teams because of the layoff and because of the missed practices.
Yeah, and I think that's what you have to give credit to, is that you didn't see a lot of practices. You didn't see a lot of things. You knew in a lot of ways this wasn't going to be a clean game. I think the other thing for this, you didn't get a lot of penalties in the pass interference and holding, which was a little bit surprising, and maybe the refs played a part in that of kind of saying, hey, this is the scrimmage game, we're not going to call it as tight as usually. But overall, I didn't expect these guys to come out and play roaring great football just because it was the lack of practice, the lack of continuity throughout the year.
2 things I worried about going into the season because of the lack of practice: tackling, which wasn't as bad as I expected,
Right.
and special teams. Now, they had their blemishes, but they also won the game on kind of a fluky play at the end. Well, it sealed the game when South Carolina had a punt hit one of their guys in the back of the leg. But special teams and tackling weren't as ghastly, eye-opening for either team as I expected going in.
Yeah, it was. You had blemishes, as you mentioned. Tennessee starting out with a couple of snaps of the punt that weren't very good. You had one of the best kickers in the league, Smagli, missing a 46-yarder, I think it was. I don't know how much to blame him on that, but you did have a couple of bobbles like that. But you also had, I thought from Tennessee's perspective, I thought Velus Jones showed a spark with kickoff returns. I think he had a 40-yarder. And so I thought overall, even though you did have a couple of hiccups along the way, I thought the special teams was okay for Tennessee.
And then you had to find who was going to make the plays down the field, right? Who was going to catch the ball? And then you had a couple of spectacular plays by your receivers. And to me, that was really as much the difference to the game. South Carolina had a quarterback that was out that was a big factor too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to give Tennessee credit again. The programs won 7 in a row, and how many of those have been one-possession games? How many of those were you behind
4.
and come back and win? So to me, it's a together football team, and just keep improving. Build on that.
Take the ugly win. That's the simple way to say it. Take the ugly win.
Especially when it's an SEC road win.
Yeah.
I mean, those don't come easy.
And how many times do you think South Carolina's players watched that game from last year where Jawan Jennings is just breaking tackle after tackle, and you're thinking now we got them coming here? I would have expected just a little bit more out of South Carolina.
I'll also give Tennessee credit because the way they started,
Yeah,
that looked like it could go bad quick.
Yeah, and for what about the defense after the bad snap on the punt? When you're down 7-0, and if you go down 14-0 there, that's a very deep hole to dig out of.
All right, when we come back to our Hot Read segment, this is pretty good. We'll talk about the front seven for Tennessee and also who got chewed out more at halftime. I'll explain next. Come on back on the Sports Source.